Hey everyone, welcome to episode 136 of the Lift Free and Diet Hard podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Coates, and I've got a guest I've been really excited about for a while. We had to postpone once, but we made it work. And it is the owner of Strong Magazine, Jennifer Van Barneveld. And you're also the co-founder of Team Strong Girls. So you've got a really
Yes.
big footprint in the fitness industry, but also especially around women's coaching. And one of the things I love is that your branding is really about strength versus dieting versus weight loss, right? So I want to dig into that today, but thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited. We got to reschedule. The kids are not here right now, so I am all yours.
Awesome. Well, let's actually dig into that because again, like I said, Strong Magazine, which is one of we talked off air, there are fewer and fewer print magazines now. It's a tougher space, more things are online. But you brand around the promotion of strength and not weight loss and dieting. So what happened there? Because if I'm not mistaken, you weren't the founder of the magazine. You acquired the magazine, right?
No, yes. So 2.5 years ago, my husband and I acquired the magazine. Now I have a company called Team Strong Girls, which I started 10 years ago. We're actually celebrating 10 years in Team Strong Girls as well as Strong Fitness Magazine. So we kind of started the same year as Strong. And I always believed in inspiring women to, take up space and focus on building rather than losing, because my past, I did all of that. I suffered with an eating disorder. I went down the rabbit hole of overtraining. One time I actually fainted on the gym floor while training one of my clients. And that was my biggest wake up call, because I was like, you know what? Here I am trying to help and inspire these people who are training with me, and I'm probably the most unhealthiest person in the room. I have to make a change. And that's when I went back to school for holistic nutrition. I really learned how to stop focusing on the scale and start focusing on lifting, loving my body, adding stuff to my life, like food, like the protein, and not being so scared of food. I call this finding my strong. When I found my strong, I wanted every single woman to feel the way that I did. And that's why I started Strong Girls. And then, yes, after this journey of helping many women and now many coaches help women, I jumped into the role of becoming president of Strong Fitness Magazine, which I do not take lightly. It has been a whirlwind. I absolutely love it. And we just want to give a platform to women in the fitness space who are on that same path of building women up and creating space within the fitness industry for us all. And stop focusing on losing and shrinking ourselves.
So 2.5 years ago, like that had to feel like, it must have been an incredible opportunity. What did you feel was the opportunity and the leverage to take that existing brand in a form of media that is technically, like, absolutely in decline? I mean, the industry as a whole in print magazine, it doesn't mean that an individual publication cannot thrive. What was the point of leverage or opportunity that you saw to say, I'm going to get into this at a time when this is not strong?
Yes. So that's a great question, because I did build my business is solely online. Like when I started Strong Girls back in 2012, it was online. I was an online coach. I was probably one of the few at that time. So I came from the digital world, and now going to a print magazine was like, wow, how can I use this to leverage it and also to help other women? That was just my biggest question. And I knew that the distribution was all over North America. How can I use this? And we essentially use it as like a membership almost, so like when you become part of our magazine, if you subscribe to our magazine, you will become part of a bigger mission. Okay, so we have an online membership, and really just using the magazine as an opt-in into our strong world. And that's how we are leveraging and continuing to grow. And that's why it's still on shelves today.
Yeah, it's one of the few magazines that is on the shelves of the grocery stores that I walk through. I see it all the time, right? And it's actually a funny little story.
Lifting magazine, right? Like a lifting magazine too.
Totally, right?
Yeah.
And I got sort of connected with you guys because one of my clients is a childhood friend of Jacqueline Phillips, who I had on my other podcast. And so she's telling me about her friend who's doing really great things in the fitness industry. So I go, I follow her, and I put two and two together and realized, wait a second, Team Strong Girls, Strong Magazine, you. So I followed all you guys. Everybody seemed to follow me right back, and then started interacting a little bit. I'm like, okay, cool. Now I'm understanding this dynamic here. I've got to get you guys onto the podcast so I can learn more, but share you guys. And you guys are also all Canadians as well, right?
Yes. So Jacqueline Phillips became part of Strong Girls about 5 years ago, and now she's our Team Strong Girls head coach. Amazing, amazing human being, and she leads our team of 9 coaches now, and then also has a huge client roster of, I believe, 80 clients at the moment. And she's awesome. Like I knew we vibed right from when we met on our first photo shoot. We were actually shooting for Inside Fitness for their top 100
All right.
hot and fit. And it is, like attracts like, I always say this. And I just heard her speak in the car. Like I met her for the first time and she was just speaking about how she trained for the shoot. And it was like, not restricting, loving all foods, not over dieting. And I was like, we need to connect because I knew she wanted to get into coaching. And, the rest was history because she fit in so seamlessly into my mission and Team Strong Girls. And now she's really helped elevate it and helped us grow. And yeah, we're can continue to do more epic things together.
She radiates positive energy.
She
She's
does.
vibrant. She's great. Now, I do want to come back to, some of the things about building Team Strong Girls, but first, I think there's something else very nuanced in here. So in talking with Jacqueline on the other podcast, she's very big on allowing, there's an element of transformation for women, right?
Mm-hmm,
But you guys are branded around strength, but it's also, you're very positive about doing photo shoots and looking your best. And it's almost like this threading the needle on this thing that I think is becoming ideological. Because on one hand, we have the diet weight loss marketing, right? And we know that's the bigger thing. And then we know there's the aggressively Photoshop touched up stuff that traditionally comes out of the glamour magazines and the Cosmos and that sort of stuff. And then on the other side, we now have the industry pushing this whole thing really hard about almost like weight loss, fat loss is almost a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
And there's sort of this ideological fight that sort of almost like attacks anybody who promotes that stuff. How do you guys thread that needle? And again, I think one of the keys is promoting strength versus fat loss, but still taking being positive about empowering women to, hey, you can do a photo shoot and get lean for this photo shoot.
Absolutely. I feel like vanity is often frowned upon, but why? Like some of the people that live the longest, it's because they take care of their appearance, right? And so I don't think there's anything wrong with even wanting to lose fat, wanting to gain muscle. Like there's nothing wrong with wanting to just level up and be a better version of yourself, whether it's physically, whether it's mentally. Like we all know that that's connected. So me coming from that like far off left of like thinking that I needed to be small and like 115 pounds. Yeah, like that's a little bit extreme, but there is a balance. And there's a balance when you're doing things the right way, the healthy way, the way that you can sustain and maintain forever. And we all know this, but when you lift weights, when you're taking care of yourself, when you're sleeping well, when you're eating properly, you feel amazing and you look amazing. When you look awesome, you're going to just show up in life better. So, and how we got into the photo shoots is like, I believe in every woman should celebrate themselves. When women have children, they often like hide away from the camera. It's all about their kids. Like they don't really strive to do anything for themselves anymore. A lot of women don't. So when they finally make that decision to take better care of themselves, to maybe lift weights, to put in that effort, to prioritize their fitness, why not celebrate it at the end? Celebrate it with something like a fitness photo shoot or a photo shoot that you can keep these photos forever, share it with your kids, be proud of it. So that's a really key component within Strong Girls and within Strong. You know, we use a lot of these amazing badass images in Strong. And some of the women you find in the pages of Strong, they're not fitness models. Like some of them are actually like moms who have literally put work in and then booked a shoot, look fantastic, and this opportunity came to them. Like all, I like to say doors open when you are focusing on positive in your life and when you are focusing on growth, doors will continue to open up. And it often starts with just taking care of yourself with fitness first.
I love what you said about when moms have kids and then all of
Yeah.
a sudden the kids come first.
Mhm.
There is this almost like cultural societal expectation that you must put yourself last. And even the appearance of doing the thing for yourself could be met with shame, or women could fear being shamed for that. Any
Yeah.
comments that, because again, with,
Yeah.
especially the coaches dealing with this sort of stuff with their clients, any
Yeah.
nuanced thoughts there?
Yeah. I often say actions are caught, they're not taught. So as a mom, if you're thinking like, oh my gosh, I cannot, take an hour and train when my kids need me, it's like, yeah, you need that hour for you 100%. But not only that, your kids need to see that. I remember seeing my dad train in the basement. He would box, he would row, he would lift weights, he would go out for a run, and he had type 1 diabetes since he was like 6. So he knew how to he knew he had to take care of his body. And that inspired me, like I always remember my dad going down training. I would want to be there with him. So get over the fact that, your kids need you 110% of the time. You need to show them. You need to show them how to take care of themselves.
This is perfect. I've got a post. I wrote it in 2021. I've reused it several times on my social media. It's actually pinned on my wall. It is the most viral thing I've ever had. Gets plagiarized a lot. And it reads,
Sure.
expose children to gym environments and let them see a workout, especially moms and daughters. Imagine children growing up seeing strength training and gyms as normal instead of as intimidating places they struggle with as adults. And I
Yes.
love that sentiment. And that one's so resonant with people. Because you're right. It's a gift to them, because if all of the language and the behavior that they see growing up, kids, is moms talking about weight loss and dieting, and not just even the words, but the behaviors, the kids will pick up on this stuff, the way the negative self-talk, versus people who grow up where exercise and resistance training and other sports and activities are the normal thing. It completely shapes. When I grew up, mom and dad, they're pretty active. They're both high level swimmers. We got into cross country skiing when we were young. They both did it. Me and my brother, one of my brothers anyway, we played a lot of sports growing up, and we were really lucky. I didn't realize at the time, but mom and dad, like during the week, everything was, again, this is luck, like the good fortune of having this available. Not everybody has this life, environment to grow up in, but everything was home cooked, normal breakfasts. We could have like Fruit Loops on the weekend, and I would get an allowance to have like chocolate bar and chips and a drink on like Friday. But it normalized
Yeah.
this, like here's this treat you get to look forward to, as opposed to, that's the everyday
All the
thing. And
time.
I look back and I'm like, I was so lucky for that. And for anybody who didn't have that, guess what? You can create that for the next generation as a gift forward.
100%. Yeah. And I often hear through my clients, even me, like my mom didn't really train, or work out. My dad was the more active one. And I wish she would have. I see her knee problems. I see the issues that she has now. Um, that I wish that she had done that for herself, even if it meant taking an hour away from me and my brother. I wish she would have put that in.
Yeah, and that generation, this wasn't normal for them, and they probably didn't.
Mhm.
It wasn't
Mhm.
modeled for them. There was nothing marketed towards them to say, hey, this is normal. And
Totally.
now
Yeah.
comes back to what you guys are doing. You're actually teaching and filling in this gap and making it normal. So with Team Strong Girls, like, what
Mhm.
went into building that and making it successful? I think more and more there's a lot of coaches who are understanding that they can build businesses and they can build teams and that they can grow online. You've got I mean, I was at Coaching Con earlier this year, Jason Phillips event, and they're big
Mhm.
on this skill. And
Yep.
another event with Jordan Duggar and Aaron Diamond that I spoke at in Arizona in December. And again, their mentorship. So there's a lot of these mentorships that are building up teaching this stuff, but you did this before those mentorships were there. Now you probably had mentors, but anything really important, instrumental to you building it, whether it's attitudes, tactics?
Yeah. The one thing that I can say, and I teach this a lot now, is the whole aspire to inspire. Be okay with sharing your clients. And listen, you have to set the tone even before your clients come in the door and talk about the importance of sharing your journey, because this is why we're doing it. Like I always educate through my social media, through teaching coaches now, to really focus on that, because once we start sharing people, like that's how we grow our business. We literally just share transformations 3 or 4 times a day and saw the inquiries come in. That's how we did it. Now, that was when Facebook was a little bit more friendly in 2012, but the game hasn't really changed. And even when my coaches, let's say, are a little bit slow, it's like, well, have you been sharing, at least a transformation per day? When they say, actually, no, I haven't been, and then they start to do it. This was me and Jacqueline's conversation often at the beginning of her coaching relationship with me. It's like, okay, how many transformations have you shared? She knew if she started to share more of her women, more of her success stories, she would get people filling out her questionnaire, getting people to DM her. Um, and I just call it this the heartbeat formula, because it's so important to share. And when coaches say, like, listen, I can't get my clients wanting to share, like they're okay with me cutting off their heads, or some of them don't even want me to post on social media. How do I get over that hump? And it is, again, going back to the marketing and the branding and the content that you're putting out. As I said, one of my main pillars was talking about aspire to inspire and how powerful it is to share your story. And if somebody doesn't want to share their story, egging them on to do baby steps. Because every time I convinced somebody, that I was convinced a client of mine who was apprehensive to share their story, every time we did that, they would always write me back and say, I am so happy that you pushed me to do this. I've had like 4 or 5 people reach out to me and say, you have inspired me to start on my fitness journey. So I would say that that is still very much a huge part of growth. And if you don't have a lot of, let's say, transformation stories to begin with, share your own, share it over and over and over again. If you have a couple of clients, share them if they're willing, share them over and over and over again, because this is how you're really going to show people what you can do for them. And we all know that, or Instagram, or some people are using Facebook or even TikTok. That's like our business card now. So if you go to somebody's account and you're seeing a bunch of photos of, them and their family or whatever, but no transformations, nothing about fitness, like how are they going to know that you're a coach? You need to have those come up in the feed consistently, like every day, every other day.
One of my favorite things is sharing my client Larry. Now, it's less about a physical transformation. We're working on him. He's a little stuck in his ways at 73 years old, but the videos of him lifting really heavy stuff, and it's just what you said. There's a lot of people who say, well, this now I have to get my dad lifting or my parents lifting. Or people will say, shit, like if Larry's doing this, I'm 35, I'm half his age, I gotta get to the gym. And I get a ton of positive praise. And Larry was very bashful. I mean, he was absolutely okay with me sharing him, but he was very bashful about it, the attention he would get. And then he would read the comments and see this outpouring of kindness and how it was affecting people. And he felt really good about it. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of power in that. I think early in my career, I was using Facebook a lot to share a lot of lifting videos of my clients demonstrating strength. And I think that really drove a lot of, like, certainly word of mouth, but like a lot of inquiries of the network within the network I had, because I was staying top of mind, right? And I think that's what you were alluding to, is
Totally.
you stay
Yep.
top of mind within the social network that you have that already exists. Because most coaches, there's not a lot of coaches that start out as the 18-year-old personal trainer. I started in this business at 32. So you have all these people from other walks of life. And if you've always got through life with integrity, they know that integrity, that character. And then if they see you're in this world, they're going to say, I want to come work with you. God forbid they have that health scare or someone in their family does.
Totally. Totally.
So the business has obviously been really successful. 9 coaches under the umbrella.
It's also community too. I have to mention, like, we have a really awesome, we started our private Facebook community years ago, but I feel like that is a huge component as well. You need to have a community that you can educate, that you can connect with, that your clients can connect together. We've had friendships form from this community of women all over the world, and it's been amazing. And like, you go onto that page and it's just so inspiring. Like, people posting every day, about their wins, or, even if they've had a bad day, like, the community will lift them up. And that's a huge part of it, because transformations don't happen in isolation. And so when you are, especially in the online world, you're seeking out a coach, and yes, the coach is going to show you that path, but still you need a community behind you, and you can't expect everybody in your life, even your partner, to fully support everything you're doing, right? So you need to find those like-minded people. So I would say our community is huge in the growth of Team Strong Girls, and also the success of our clients and coaches.
Was it hard hiring your first employee? What were the challenges around, whether it's like a mental barrier? Because I think a lot of us, myself included, have this attitude. It's like, well, I can't hire anybody else because they won't be as good or have as much attention to detail as I have. How did you navigate that, get around it?
That's a great question. So we first hired, I think I was pregnant with Jackson, and I realized, like, I better find some help because I didn't know what to expect as a new mom. And so we hired some coaches, and it didn't really, I kind of just thought that they would just know how to do it, right? I think that's a big one at first, because you're like, okay, well, or you just take it for granted, I guess. You take it for granted of what you've, been through, you've learned over the years. And so they didn't work out, but that's on me. I didn't know how to actually train somebody at that point, right? When Jacqueline came on, she was very much, I had probably experience with, like, not knowing not what to do with her. And I guided her properly. But for me, with the coaching part of it, I believe that you as a coach need to have that special connection with your clients. And I don't believe in, like, me being a coach and then, like, hiring an assistant. That never vibed with me. I know that there's different coaching programs that teach that, but I always wanted to teach coaches how to make a bigger impact, essentially grow a business. So when I taught this to Jacqueline, and I mean, when she came on first, she was like, listen, I just want to coach. I don't want to do anything else. I don't want to do the marketing. I don't want to, like, do the whole growing of the business. But I was like, you're too special for that. You're like, you're way too special. Like, you need to you need to do all of this. So I kind of coaxed her into, creating the brand that she has, being a big part of Team Strong Girls, obviously under that bigger brand. But it worked, and she slowly began to build her business. I mean, she's like at $250,000 in like 4 months this year. Like, she's been doing awesome. And that really made me excited. So I was like, I want to help other coaches do this too. And that's how we've really developed our business. Our business is a very different business model. It's essentially like a franchise licensing model. So if a coach wants to become a Strong Girl coach, they are, it's through our licensing, but I'm essentially teaching them how to build their book of business under us. Like, they're pretty much entrepreneurs. So that's how we love to do things. I feel like it's making more of an impact. Not only am I helping women build like their coaching business, but also helping them thrive and, support their family and live their passion.
I've always thought about what I think may have been a false dichotomy now between two types of coaches. The coach who just wants to coach, that you sort of described, that Jacqueline started out like,
Yeah.
and the person who would probably gravitate towards working under an umbrella that is the marketing vehicle. And I think of a lot of the time, a lot of the coaches have settled into Stronger You or Macros Inc. I'm not sure if you're familiar with those
Mm-hmm.
companies. Their owners
Mm-hmm.
are friends of mine. And then there's the other end of the spectrum, which is someone I identify with who is like got that hustle and comfort with forward facing media and willing
Yeah.
to build resources, build the long form media, and that sort of tireless work ethic, right? And I never thought about the in between, but you just described the in between where someone has both the capacity to be entrepreneurial and build, but still is comfortable being within a brand. Does that
Yeah.
make sense? And
Yeah.
is that what you guys look for? Is it sort of like, do they self-select to be the right fit for you? Or do you kind of mold them? Because you clearly
That's a good
had a role
question.
in molding Jacqueline, but it was probably something you saw in her that was just her.
Yes. Yes. So yeah, to be a team strong girls coach, there is a lot of like it does. I'm all about culture first. So it has to be a good fit within our current culture. Um, but we do have like a completely other side of the business where we have a certification called Strong Formula, because we saw a huge gap with coaches. They either like, they would take their nutrition cert, they would take their training cert, um, they would have an online coach themselves, would probably be like us, and they would think that they could go and start coaching. But I think this, they don't really teach you how to take a client through a successful body transformation with your training and your nutrition together. So that's what we teach. So we kind of move people up our ladder and then select who we think would be a great fit for becoming a strong girls coach. But that's not to say that we don't coach other people with their own brands, because I have many coaches that, they'll do the strong formula, they'll go into our business coaching program, and they'll want to keep their own brand intact. And we help them, build an amazing coaching practice and brand on their own. So yes. So short answer to your question, we do kind of self-select and find that perfect person to fit into our culture.
And you answered a question I didn't even think to ask, was that if you also externally, mentor coaches, or if it's all internal, because there are companies that most things are external. And then there are companies where it's entirely internal. I think of Trevor Cashy Nutrition, who's sort of a legend in the industry in that space. And all of his curriculum is designed for coaches who are within their business umbrella. Okay, so that I think is really insightful. And
Yeah, we have a kind of both.
All right. So there was one other topic, I guess, that I was interested in because, one of my big things is writing, right? I love writing for different publications. And you obviously have a lot of writers, especially female fitness entrepreneurs, have written for your magazine. I know in the past, like Lee Boyce, for example, a good friend of mine, has written for Strong Magazine, and he raves about you guys. But is there any advice for the aspiring coach? I mean, again, the advice I think is across the board, even though, like any of the female fitness entrepreneurs listening, they may aspire to actually write for you someday. Anything that could help them, pitfalls, like you name it, whatever you think's relevant.
Yeah, so it's submitting. it's submitting into it's finding out who to submit to. So our editor in chief is Kat Lekas, and doing a little bit of research beforehand, finding out who the right person is to submit these articles. Um, Obviously, we want amazing writers who have a name for themselves. So I mentioned before, our social media now is our business card. I don't know about you, but like even if I'm looking for a guy to cut my lawn, I will.
Hmm.
And if I get a referral, I will look at their Instagram or, their social media first. And so I feel like having a social media presence is very important for anything. For, if you're going to if you're a fitness pro wanting to submit an article, if you're a fitness pro wanting to submit a workout. And then also, I'm talking specific to like fitness models if they wanted to submit like a
Mm.
workout,
Mhm.
source the right photographer. So for our magazine, we work with a few photographers, but make sure that it is a photographer that works for the magazine, that knows how to shoot the workouts. That's really key as well. And also, as I said before, the magazine print world and even the TV media world has completely changed. We do have packages where you can essentially pay, like they do obviously have to be approved, but pay for an article segment per issue. So there's that as well.
Okay, that's interesting. I like that you pointed out, having to be a skilled writer. So if you could,
Yes,
everybody's
skilled
listening, they
writer.
can't
Yes, of
see,
course.
but over my shoulder here, you'll see that there's a lot of books on writing. It's actually one of the things that I recommend coaches do is I've had people, over the years, I've gotten a fair number of people message me and going, "Oh, how do I get in with, say, T Nation?" Was that's where I started,
Mhm.
or the other publications. And I always tell them three things. And I say, you need to learn the skill of writing, which means starting to read books on writing. And I always say this: if someone's interested, message me on Instagram. I will literally give you my starting recommendations. Okay. Two, you have to practice. You have to get started.
Yes.
I what I had a website made years ago. My best friend like wouldn't even take any money for it. She got me like a starting website that actually worked great. She was super. Without that, things would have been very different because I needed to have that outlet to start writing for myself. I didn't just start going, all right, well, I'm going to start submitting to these publications. I wasn't even thinking about that. And it happened that I brought Danny Sugar, the one of the editors at T Nation, onto a podcast years ago. Danny's
Mm.
amazing. And I've been reading her stuff on T Nation for a very long time. But she saw on my media that I already was writing. So she turned around and asked me to come and write for T Nation. And so you got to put yourself in a position to benefit from
Totally.
luck, right? And there's a lot of work that went into this. And I've had people who I've told, and then the third step is then you have to go, and you said it, is you have to go look at the submission guidelines, learn how publications want stuff, and you have to know their voice, you have to know their style, you have to know their audience, all that. And if you do all those things, which I've had a bunch of people do and get successfully published, great. But I've had people who've literally said to me, I don't want to do all that. What they were
Yeah.
looking for is they were looking for a um, an introduction to one of my editors, which I apologize, but I do have to gatekeep that because if I'm going to give somebody to one of my editors, it's going to be someone who has shown me that they can do this. Now, I've done a lot of intros for people I think have put in the work, but I've got to be careful there. And Eb Samuel, who is the fitness director of Men's Health, once said recently on a podcast, quote, nobody cares about your story because he gets all manner of submissions and it's young coaches who want to be featured in Men's Health because they think it's going to make them. It's this big status symbol for them, and they're coming at it from a point of view of, well, this is going to benefit me. Uh-uh. If someone wants to work with Strong, I'm guessing I'm going to give you guys this advice: figure out how it can benefit you and Strong Magazine, so that way
Mhm.
everybody wins, right?
100%. Yes, you're bang on with that. Um, it's totally, yeah, we get a lot of, this is my story. How can I get on the cover? How can I get inside? Um, and there's a different approach there. It's like this, it's almost having a pre-made thing for us. Like, let's say you wanted to submit a workout, like get it all done ahead of time, submit it. If it's done for us and we, of course, have to edit and that sort of thing, but that makes it of a lot easier, smoother process for us too, right? So like you said, have some pre-done articles, pre-done recipes, whatever it is, but to just tell us your story and say that you would love, you feel though you deserve to be inside, isn't going to do much. We get a lot of those. We get hundreds a week.
I'm a big believer in developing what I call career capital. And
Mm.
that is building long form content and verifiable proof of business success. So, for example, I mean, you are the owner of Strong Magazine, and you are the owner of Team Strong Girls. Those are monstrous pieces of career capital. They demonstrate a track record of success. It gets you indoors, and it probably has people showing up knocking on your door saying, hey, would you come and do this with us? Right. And
Mm-hmm.
for everybody in the industry, if you aspire, and here's something that's important too. I think a lot of coaches aspire to this stuff because they think, oh, this is going to make me, and then it's going to have me like lined up with clients. That's not how it works. I promise you. Okay.
No.
You actually have to do the business side first, the in-person, or if it's online,
Yes.
your network. You actually have to make sure you're set and secure. That's how I did it. And then you can build on top of it these things that you're interested in. So again, if it's writing, cool, go do the writing. If it's YouTube, YouTube is a powerful vehicle, and some of the biggest and most financially successful fitness industry people in the world, and whether or not you agree with everything they do, whether it's knees over toes guy or a guy like Jeff Cavalier with Athlean X or Bradley Martin or what have you, they are monsters on YouTube, right? Or maybe it is, people who've really done big things in the podcasting space. Either way, those people have built something. And not only can, if they ask for something, chances are people are going to be like, yeah, we'd love to work with you, but people are going to be knocking on their door. And it does mean patience. It means time. It means being willing to put in the work like you did, right? And
Totally.
I know that the younger generation of coaches, they're in a bit of a rush for these status symbols, but don't look at it in terms of status. Look at building all of these things that actually just help people. If you do a really good job of it and more people show up and it scales, then I actually believe that these opportunities will present themselves if you value it. All of the
Totally.
stuff that I do does not pay me as well as my training and coaching. I do the other things like the public speaking and the writing because I enjoy them, right? They're
Mm-hmm.
fulfilling, but they're not for everybody, and they're not going to fill your roster up completely. They can help.
It's not, yeah. It's not a shortcut. It's not a shortcut. And I like to say this too, and I don't know if this will come across strange, but even if you have built a coaching business and you're of somebody in the industry, being in a magazine or even on the cover is not going to, like, it's just not, it's not going to cause like a rush of people. It's how you use it. It's how you leverage it within your or anything just once. You know, if you've had an opportunity to be on a cover of a magazine or even inside a cover of a magazine, you are like the less than 1%. Have that in your marketing, share it over and over and over. It's your job to, let people know that like you're an authority figure. And what I often see happen in the fitness industry is like they get this, like I've seen it in, I don't know if you're familiar with Inside Fitness, but
Oh
like
yeah.
they have this big hot and fit issue per year. I won, I think, like, I don't know, probably like 7 years ago now, maybe no, 5 years ago. But I've seen these girls grace the cover, and then it's like they share it once and then it's done. And they never talk about it again. And I know it might feel a little bit weird to share yourself over again, but again, you're the less than 1% who has had this opportunity. It's your duty to share and inspire others. And and it doesn't have to be just all about you. You can share it in different unique ways. You can tell your story. You can, you know, whatever, if you have a workout in a magazine, you can actually do that live. Like there's different ways and media outlets to share it, but it is your duty to continue to leverage it with your social media and attract
You're
people
speaking
who
my
you're
language.
inspiring.
You're
Okay,
speaking my
good.
language, and I'm going to give a very good example of this. So, two
Mhm.
parts. One is I have waved around T Nation is a big part of my brand a lot for the almost 5 years I've been writing for them. And then, of course, you add on all the other things. Now, recently, I was published, had a workout submitted. I was asked to submit it for Arnold Schwarzenegger's Arnold's Pump Club, one of the biggest
Awesome.
fitness publications probably in the universe, right? Email news list. And I think that thing has probably got several 100,000 subscribers. So any coach would probably say, yes, please. Like, I would love to have that, right? You'd line up to do it. And you'd think that thing's going to like create this outpouring of interest and followers, or what have you. It didn't. It absolutely didn't, because people are showing up for Arnold. Now, they probably did the workout. I was tagged through right to my Instagram, but it didn't generate a lot of new followers. But that's okay, because that, as soon as my web guy, he doesn't listen to these, gets the logo up on my website, that thing
Yeah.
is going to, that badge will be on my website for forever. It will get featured
Totally.
on my media repeatedly. Here I am talking about it. And that thing is it's just a feel good accomplishment. I really enjoy it. And it's
And
not something
authority, instant authority and credibility.
instant authority.
Anybody goes to your website and sees that, or you post about it, it's like, I got to listen to this guy. Like he knows what he's talking about. Like he was featured here, like that's instant authority.
And the stack of all of the publications I've written for, someone looks at that and goes, okay, like there are very few people. There are very few people in the industry who have that stack and list of things, right? So it stands out absolutely. And I've worked very hard over a very long time frame to acquire the skills to do it. And for an aspiring coach who's got something amazing to say and is willing to invest the time and effort into learning the skill of writing, you may get, like, it would be very brand developing. It would be very it would be, I can't even talk today. It would be a great addition to your brand to be featured as a writer on Strong Magazine, because I've got friends who feature that prominently. So anyway, I think we can leave off there. I definitely want to make sure people know where to find you, especially because they want to follow your media and if they aspire to work with you guys someday. So where do they find you?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I hang around on Instagram. It's at coach_JVB. We also have at Team Strong Girls, and then also at Strong Fitness Mag. We have Strong Fitness Mag website. And then I also have my podcast, which is called the Find Your Strong podcast. And I would love to have you on the podcast. So let's set that up.
Done deal. Absolutely. All right, everybody listening, guys, thank you so much. I appreciate this. Please go follow Jennifer. Obviously, you can now see, like, she's a big linchpin within the industry doing awesome stuff. And for anybody listening, longtime listeners, again, go follow her. If anybody's finding my podcast for the first time through Jennifer's media, go through the library of the guests that I've had. There's a lot of really incredible, prominent women in the fitness industry who've been guests, people like Molly Galbraith, Jill Coleman, Sohee Lee, Megan Calloway, my good friend Melody Schoenfeld, Natalia Mello Wilson, and a lot more. So I'm really proud of the roster. Thank you guys, everybody. And I'm about to record my very next episode. You'll get that in a week.